Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Delete This podcast. If you're catching us from our live, then you know that Delcy Rodriguez has now been sworn in as the new Venezuelan president after Nicolás Maduro was obtained by the US government. We're going to get into that. And we're going to talk about how Elon Musk is pretty much at the center of this, not necessarily in a direct manner, but him and his oligarchs, in my opinion, are at the center of this. We will have more for you when we return. All right, I want to start off and thank you guys so much for joining us for today's episode. If you guys are catching us live or later on, you guys can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts as well. But feel free to feel free to scan this QR code if you are watching us from some kind of screen and support us on our various different platforms. All right, for today's episode, we're going to give a little update on Venezuela because Delcy Rodriguez has now been named as the new sitting president for Venezuela, which, surprise, surprise to many people, it seemed as though the U.S. government was looking to put in place somebody, and it looks like they found that person. So we're going to get into kind of what has been the reaction across the board regarding this move, or really just what's been going on in Venezuela. We'll see a mixed reaction, and really this reaction is pretty much just based off who is going to profit from where. So let's get into that by looking at our first person. So this is the UK or British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and this is what he had to say regarding Venezuela. He said, "The UK has long supported a transition of power in Venezuela. We regarded Maduro as an illegitimate president, and we shed no tears about the end of his regime." So it should not come as a surprise to you if you tuned into yesterday's episode that the British have a very vested interest in Venezuela for a similar reason that the US has, which is the oil production. Okay, the British are one of the groups that feel like they were ousted out of their business endeavor. And it's not a lot to say really about like who cares about what cause and other causes, because we also have the sitting French president Emmanuel Macron who has weighed in on this as well. And Macron had to say this about Venezuela. He said, "The Venezuelan people are today rid of Nicolás Maduro's dictatorship and can only rejoice. By seizing power and trampling on fundamental freedoms, Nicolás Maduro gravely undermined the dignity of his own people." So it should not come again as a surprise for people who have tuned in or just who are paying attention to basically the economy of Venezuela and what Venezuela has to offer allegedly in terms of natural resources. It has one of the largest, or I believe actually it is the largest according to like a former Venezuelan president, Hugo Chavez. He said that has the largest reserve for oil. So it seemed as though, I think he also said that they had oil for the next 100 years, which is not something that the US could necessarily say themselves. And this one kind of caught me off guard, this response, which was by the Argentinian president. The reason why it caught me off guard was because I feel like Latin America was actually seemingly more in favor of supporting Nicolás Maduro, or at least being against the US intervening directly in that country. But this is what the Argentinian president, Javier Milei, had to say. He said, "Freedom advances, long live freedom, damn it." So I'm not sure exactly what is going on with the history there. Maybe somebody who is watching can inform me a little bit, but I'm down to go down that rabbit hole a little bit later because it always strikes me as interesting because usually Latin America has banded together unless there have been some particular actually I can't say that about many things, but usually in like world affairs, I feel like Latin America tends to stick together. And this is the reaction now from the people who were pro Venezuela, meaning that they wanted to maintain that Venezuela had the right to elect its own leader, a democratic process, and also were opposed to the U.S. sending military personnel into Venezuela. And that starts with the Mexican president, which is Claudia Sheinbaum. And she says, the government of Mexico strongly condemns and rejects the military actions carried out unilaterally in the last few hours by the armed forces of the United States. And then the Cuban president says that Cuba denounces and urgently demands the reaction of the international community against the criminal attack by the US on Venezuela. And then lastly, we have China. This is more China's foreign ministry. They said that China is deeply shocked by and strongly condemns the US's blatant use of force against a sovereign nation and action against its president. So you might be asking yourself, okay, how is everybody picking sides in this? Like, there are people who love Venezuela, there are people who dislike, well, not dislike Venezuela, but there are people who have their interest in supporting the current U.S. regime's decision to directly interfere in Venezuela. And I want to pull up a photo from yesterday's big oil conversation because I feel like it helps us it helps enlighten us as to how the U.S. has positioned themselves in the or how the U.S. has viewed Venezuela as a natural resource. So you can see here that obviously ExxonMobil, Chevron, and then those two are from the U.S. And then you can see UK is represented here and France is represented here. So this clearly shows an alignment with obviously big oil and then where those sitting governments are siding on in terms of the current decision to, like we said, interfere in Venezuela. And just to pull that up again, that big oil profit. Yeah, so here it's as you guys can see, this is a $200 billion industry just for obviously big oil here. These companies, if you guys did not tune in to our previous episodes, these companies are pretty much responsible for the transportation, the marketing, the logistical aspects of transporting oil, but they do not actually themselves own much of that oil. We know that the US does have their own oil reserves. I believe in Pennsylvania, they found a large oil reserve, and that's like where a lot of the US oil comes from. And there are probably many others that I do not know about. But for the most part, these European nations do not directly own this natural resource. For the most part, it is the Arabic nations that own a large amount of the oil supply, and then Venezuela is kind of like one of the bottom ones. I don't exactly know the geopolitics in terms of why the Western powers ended up taking oil from Arabic nations. It could be pricing, it could be logistical aspects. It's closer geographically to a lot of things versus Venezuela. There's only kind of one or few access points probably for these countries, but it definitely raises the question. And I think that for big oil, their vendetta or their agenda is really to own more of it. And because they are not physically located there, their only way to own it is by putting pressure until they can own it. So that is why you see this kind of a move. Because at this point, it's kind of hard to imagine that our government is not exactly being run by businesses. Our government is not being run by specific individuals. And whether or not there is a vested security interest in these things usually does not trickle down to the general population. But let's go ahead and take a look at this image. This is who largely imports Venezuela oil. I just wanted to highlight this one because China is listed here as one of the top importers of Venezuela oil. I do want to say that it's not from China importing oil, Venezuela is one of the last on that list, or lower on that list. So it doesn't make up a huge faction of their oil. So I don't necessarily agree that the decision is necessarily to have a one-up on China in terms of pricing, because Venezuela just makes a small market of theirs. I think it is just another way for these big oil corporations to own or feel like they own a larger percentage of the natural natural resource. I want to also highlight that it seems as though this had already been brewing in the background for a long time. I'm going to admit that I had not been keeping my eye out on this. Out of all of the Latin American countries, I was more interested in President Bukele, because he was working directly with the Trump administration on a lot of like the ICE programs, and he was the one that was in charge of like those mega prisons. But Nicolás Maduro was not necessarily on my list of things to keep up with, even though I knew that obviously Venezuela, as a socialist country, has had a lot of issues with the US and other non socialist countries. Excuse me. But the bounty for Nicolás Maduro has been raising for quite some time now. And we actually have the poster that was shared by the US Department of State, Mark Rubio. You guys can see here from this bounty that it was raised to $50 million. And the reason why this is important is because the person that is probably closely linked to Nicolás Maduro is most likely going to be benefiting from that $50 million investment there, or not investment, but that reward. So if somebody does come into having a lot more money, then we can assume that they are most likely the person that worked behind the scenes to assist the US government in carrying out this operation. And the US government released recently a video that I want to show you guys, because the beginning part of the video is Nicolás Maduro saying like, come get me. And the reason why this is important to mention is because this happened directly as a result of that bounty poster that we were showing you, that we can pull up again. After they raised this to $50 million, because they already had a previous bounty on him for a lower price, he was then obviously irate and like, okay, they really want me. Now, there is a song that plays in this video, so we're going to just mute that. But let's go ahead and take a look at that video that was shared by the Trump administration.
Por mí, aquí lo espero en Miraflores, no se tarde en llegar, cobarde.
And now, if you don't know, now you know.
It is not a good sight to see when I feel like a sitting president, is making light of intervening so grossly in another country, and issuing this kind of a bounty. Now, if you guys are clicking into this video because you are wanting to talk about Delcy Rodriguez being sworn in to be the new sitting president, I guess an interim president of Venezuela, you have heard it correct on the news that Delcy Rodriguez has very quickly been sworn in as the acting president. So if you guys are not familiar with who she is, this is the little image of her that we have pulled. Yep, and then this is a clip that we're going to show you, which is when she was sworn in. Now, I just want to preface before we show this clip came directly from the news. It came from, I believe, Telesur, and they did their own translation, which is why we clicked it. But there's somebody that is like heavily breathing that cannot catch their breath in the background. So just keep that in mind as this video is pulling up. That is not me panting, all right?
Como vicepresidenta ejecutiva del presidente constitucional de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, a prestar juramento. Vengo con dolor por el sufrimiento que se le ha causado al pueblo venezolano luego de una agresión militar ilegítima contra nuestra patria. Vengo con dolor por el secuestro de dos héroes que tenemos de rehenes en los Estados Unidos de Norteamérica, el presidente Nicolás Maduro y la primera combatiente, primera dama de este país, Cilia Flores. Vengo con dolor, pero debo decir que vengo también con honor a jurar en nombre de todos los venezolanos y en nombre de todas las venezolanas.
Yes, I think that it's very interesting her mentioning the kidnapping of Nicolás Maduro in that speech, because obviously there is a question mark, like I was showing you guys with that bounty photo. There's a question mark in terms of, was there somebody that was part of that government operation that assisted with this? And obviously not everybody is going to be in support of the president being taken, but there are going to be people that are part of that same existing party who are going to be secretly in support of this, because it means a birth of new power. And hopefully with that new power, it means that there will be a proper management of that power. So hopefully that we will see that happen. But I also want to raise the obvious question here, which is that if Nicolás Maduro is the head of a cartel, then would that not make the vice president potentially part of that? Or like how did we go about electing or picking her and she's like not actually part of the cartel? She's just like a regular citizen. I just want to ask that question, and please somebody please inform me if you know that answer. The other thing that is very interesting about this swearing actually is the people that were in attendance. Because as I started out the video, I read to you statements from China, from obviously from Mexico, from Cuba, but it looks like the biggest allies to Venezuela, which are formerly like fully socialist countries, and also just like allies to non-Western nations and more so allying themselves to like these smaller nations. They were actually in attendance for this swearing, and I feel like what that signifies to me is that these nations are trying to act diplomatically, which is fantastic for a transition of power. But it also means that these nations are not as outraged as they are purporting to be. They are simply just putting out a statement that they are against something when they are also kind of complicit and in the background. And I want to just also state that it is not about defending a president like Nicolas Maduro. I have seen so much content that at this point I'm like, okay, I've answered my question from yesterday about Claudia Sheinbaum. Is Nicolas Maduro a Claudia Sheinbaum? No, he is not. If you guys did not see yesterday's video, just to give some context here, personally, I know a lot of people who enjoy Claudia Sheinbaum as a president for Mexico. But when you go on the internet, you see a lot of allegations about her being associated with the cartel, her not being a good president, but she boasts like one of the highest approval ratings, constantly over 80%. So I was like, is Nicolas Maduro somebody that is like that, where it's like people are just saying that they hate him, but it's just on the internet, and then people in real life, no, okay, he is not like that. Okay, people, Venezuelans definitely do not like him. From what I have read, it looks like Venezuelans make up a very big refugee party among other like refugees. So a lot of Venezuelans are very, very excited for the potential of a new government. And what I feel like a lot of these nations or people are trying to advocate is not that we're saying, yes, have Nicolas Maduro be the president, but it should be the peoples of Venezuela. It should be their decision about who their president is. They're entitled to a transparent election process. They're entitled to know that the U.S. is not directly intervening or selecting candidates from their nation or from outside of their nation. They are entitled to that information. So I want to show you guys that the clip that we were going to play, which was this is Delcy Rodriguez giving a hug to the China. These are the embassy ambassadors from China, from Russia, and Iran. Let's go ahead and play that clip. So China, Iran, and Russia are not as outraged as they are purporting to be. Obviously, they are there to assert diplomatic ties with the country and ensure that there is a peaceful transition of power, which is amazing. That is the most that you can ask for any transition of power. But it also does raise an eyebrow because, again, these countries are saying that they're outraged, that they're concerned, that the U.S. is overstepping, yet they are there present at the swearing. So they are part of that decision-making process in some way. And just to highlight, because I was like, okay, who are these people that we're looking at in this photo? So we have Lan Hu. He's from the PRC. He's the embassy ambassador. Then we had Sergey Melik-Bagdasarov. Bagdasarov. I don't know how to speak Russian clearly. And then we have Ali Chegini, and he is from Iran. So yeah, I don't think we're going to get a response from this. I think the U.S. is pretty much going to swiftly take this one, unfortunately. Unfortunately for Venezuela, but I guess fortunately for the U.S. But we are going to hope for the best. We are going to hope for the best. I do want to point out, historically, when the U.S. has intervened, obviously in other places, everybody uses these same talking points, like, okay, like it never goes good, never goes well, whatever. But I mean, it's a complicated matter. For example, like when the U.S. Initially invaded Afghanistan, they took down the leader that a lot of people did not like, and they were super welcoming to the U.S. And then we all know what a disaster it was when the U.S. eventually left Afghanistan. And then obviously the Taliban became in power, and they actually were like, okay, we actually want to really help people to like figure out how to settle and like make sure education is still functioning and everything is still functioning. But the U.S. really did mess up because it is not easy to just assign power in a region. That has to happen somewhat naturally amongst the people. I did see that there has been a lot of press regarding Maria Corina Machado. My vibe check on her has been a hell to the no, it looks like. But Venezuelans, you guys tell me if you guys like her. So she has been living outside of the US for this entire time that she fled. She was an opposition leader. She has been reportedly the person that has really gotten like Venezuelans outside of the US together, rallying around like a similar call. Now, Trump did say like that she lacks the support and the leadership to be able to run. And what I found to be interesting about her, one, she's a Nobel Peace Prize winner. She won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2025. And she says herself, like, oh, the reason why they didn't pick me and they picked Delcy was because she accepted the award and like Trump didn't want her to accept the award. Like Trump wanted this award for himself. And I was like, oh, I don't get it. I don't get it necessarily. Apparently they hadn't even been in communication, like her and Trump, according to Trump. But that Peace Prize was won because of ensuring democracy, despite like bans, persecutions, and living in hiding. So that's why she ended up winning. But let's go ahead and just take a look at what Donald Trump says regarding Maria Machado.
Aware of the location of opposition leader Machado, and have you been in contact with her?
No, we haven't. Really, no, we haven't.
Mr. President,
Do you have any hesitations about Machado?
Mr. President, on Monday.
Oh, I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect to be the leader.
Does she have the respect and the support? Let's take a look at a poll that I found on the internet. 91% of Venezuelans said absolutely not. I don't know exactly where this poll is like pulling the surveyors from, but just to highlight that they don't want her. Now, I was trying to figure out like what's going on here, because sometimes it's like understanding people's sentiment is kind of hard to gather. You can like read comments in a video, things like that. But I am a Reddit fan, and I found this comment on Reddit. We didn't pull it, but I'm just going to read it out loud for you guys so you guys can think about why potentially a lot of Venezuelans are not in support of her. And it said that, just think about it for a second. This woman asked for the U.S. to bomb her own country and offered oil assets to be exploited for foreign countries as some sort of incentive, allegedly. All right. So it seems as though Venezuelans are pumping the brakes on Maria Machado, but it seems as though like U.S. news, and I feel like it's more like liberal-ish news, wants us to think that like, oh, she got snubbed, she's being ousted, and I'm like, the more I dig into it, I'm like, wait, I feel like she was kind of giving snub, all right? There was no other choice but to. And that's the thing that you guys have to realize, that if they don't get snubbed initially, this is why transitions of power like this are so tough, the people will sniff it out, okay? The people will know that this government is not for them, because they won't see any benefits to their cost of living. They won't see benefits to like infrastructure in their cities. Like they will not see anything. And that's what a lot of people were experiencing from Nicolás Maduro, which is why people are excited that he is finally going to be left. So I want to respect what a lot of Venezuelans are saying in that matter, and say that like, okay, sounds like this is a good thing. I'm right on board with you guys. Okay, if you wanted him out, he's gone. But let's not get somebody from just Trump's orbit, or somebody who is just promising to give away all of the oil to the U.S. and to Israel. Yeah, let's try to find somebody that's like a little bit better. But I do want to point out what this video that I actually had found, and they were discussing the capture of Nicolás Maduro, and they were like, okay, like, do you think that somebody helped with this? And I just want you to see how this is a person that used to work as part, I believe, of the cabinet, not of the cabinet, I'm sorry, somewhere in the government body of Venezuela, but he no longer is working in Venezuela, and this is what he had to say regarding, like, do you think that somebody maybe helped with this situation?
You see a scenario where US forces broke in and took the president without there being some inside help?
I imagine that, I mean, in geopolitics and in national politics, I was, for instance, present in the presidential palace in Venezuela in 2002, when a military coup backed by the United States again back then was conducted against then President Chavez. And what happened was that, at least for some hours, President Chavez then, in an effort to avoid a spillage of blood and you know, generating a more uncertain situation, agreed to be removed from the palace.
I'm so tired of people just not being able to answer basic questions when they're being interviewed, especially people who are in positions of power. It's just like the Kamala Harris style of answering questions every single time. It's like, when are we gonna get there? Was there anything of substance? No, and then no. Finally, no, we didn't get anything. All right, thanks for talking. Thanks for being on our TV screen. Like, just be a human being and answer questions. Like, it's just, when people are evasive about stuff, it's like, okay, well, thanks. All right. I think I want to point out too that it seems as though, and I don't know what I personally thought this meant, but I'm like, okay, I guess this is exactly what they're meaning, which is President Trump's peace through strength. And this is his foreign policy approach. Let's go ahead and just read through some of Trump's X posts. And you can see that this is how Trump has been really curtailing, like, this talking point of peace through strength. So you can see that in 2020, he says peace through strength. Bring our soldiers home, vote. I guess nobody technically has left for Venezuela, so I guess, like, it seems as though that hasn't necessarily been violated, but as I show you more and more Trump videos, it's like, I don't think that that's going to be happening. The next thing that Trump posted, this was in March of 2016. He said, if we could pull up the X posts, it says the Trump doctrine, peace through strength. The Trump doctrine, peace through strength. And here he is sharing, like, more details about peace through strength. And then you could also see, finally, in April of 2014, Putin has showed the world what happens when America has weak leaders, peace through strength. So I think really what peace through strength means has been, actually, we're just going to assert ourselves. We're going to press our thumbs into the thorns that we have around the world. And the unfortunate thing for us Americans is that the US will allegedly, in my opinion, see the day when it is no longer a superpower, or when countries have had enough. And unfortunately for us Americans, we will be on the chopping block for that, because it's never the people that are in power. It's never the oligarchs that are actually writing up the military contracts. It's never them. It is always us at the bottom of the totem pole. And again, peace through strength has been something that has been rallied over and over, and is, of course, a part of this this campaign here. So we have this press briefing. This is from the White House U.S. Department of War, and this is a little quote from it. It says, let me pull it up. It says, what I witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit, gallantry and glory of the American warrior. This is about the safety, security, freedom, and prosperity of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength. And the United States War Department is proud to help deliver it, Hex had said of the mission. So as you can see, peace through strength is being wielded in various different ways. And like I said, it basically means that the US is going to do whatever it wants to do for however it's, I guess, allowed to do it. And really, I think that most of this piece is probably just economic ties. Hey, France, if you guys don't say anything, we will also get back your oil. Let's pull up that photo one more time. Hey, UK, if we don't say anything, we will, if you guys don't say anything, we'll get back actually like half of this oil that they took from you guys, okay? Because this belongs to you guys. And it doesn't, okay? It belongs to Venezuela. And the unfortunate thing about Venezuela, what has made it so susceptible to corruption, to being sanctioned by foreign countries, has been that oil has been its largest exporter. And I think it's about like 90% of the total exports. So it's like the main thing that it sells from the US. In fact, like when they were helping in World War II, like they were good, they were benefiting. But then when like Arabic countries like found their oil, then the Western world started to use theirs, and then nobody was buying the Venezuelan one, which was then what drove the country to extreme poverty, and then obviously the mismanagement of those funds. Because if you have oil as a natural resource, you should not really be poor as a country at some point. I mean, it's very complicated, but you have the upper hand in a lot of things. But it's hard. It's hard because foreign countries, like I said, sanction those countries. So I want to talk a little bit about Greenland, a little bit, just because President Trump did mention it, and we've been talking about it on our show for a moment now. And really, Greenland is looking to be purchased by the US. Again, I hate saying the US because it's never the US. It's like it's these tech oligarchs. It's this like top 1%. They're the ones that want to purchase it. They're the ones that want to put us like in the crossfire. But let's go ahead and take a look at. So Trump said that he wanted to buy Greenland, and then he was like asked about it on Air Force One. So this is what he has now said about buying Greenland.
Well, I don't want to talk about Greenland. Let's talk about Venezuela, Russia, Ukraine, and we'll worry about Greenland in about 2 months. Let's talk about Greenland in 20 days.
On Venezuela, we talked so much about energy.
By the way, I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you.
So, for those of you guys who do not know, Greenland is technically a land belongs to Denmark. So the vibe for it is like Greenland also is seeking its own sovereignty, and then the US is proposing a sovereign Greenland, but actually they're going to own everything about it, but it's your guys' country. Don't worry. We'll make sure to elect somebody to serve as like a little puppet leader. But if you guys have not been tuning into our podcast, we did share a little bit about Praxis Nation. If you guys are not familiar with Praxis Nation, they are a Peter Thiel company. They are a company that is interested in building a completely digitized city. And currently, like you can apply. I was looking at the application. It was like you kind of have to share some details, and they want to see people who are like-minded. And part of like their main initiatives is they want to help push certain technological innovations that already exist, which are like crypto, AI. I forget the other ones, but those are kind of like the main. Those are some of the ones, but there's a handful of other ones. Maybe we could actually pull that list. But they're really trying to be like these kind of autonomous nations where you can test out like different technological innovations. And Greenland has been in the conversation for some time now, both through like the US government and then also by private contracts. And the private contracts are important to mention because Praxis has already raised $525 million. So they are looking to quickly replace Denmark. $525 million is interesting because I want you to think about that number. We're gonna get back to that number in a second, because it'll just show you how full of BS these like tech companies are. But anyways, we have this quote that we pulled from the founder of Praxis, which is Drider Brown, and he actually went to Greenland to purchase it. Very simply, he posted on his X. He said, "I went to Greenland to try to buy it. Here's what happened." So I read through the thread and I was like, okay, what? Just generally give us some high level here, Drayden. Basically, Greenland currently is, obviously, as I mentioned, it's a territory of Denmark. It's a very small nation. It only has like about allegedly 500,000 people. I'm sorry, 50,000 people. And then certain natural resources are like uranium, gold, oil. So it's very, very rich in natural resources, which only make it that much more attractive to the big oil guys that we were showing you guys earlier. And it also is a critical in a critical like defense position. So that is also true. So there is an investment for the US to have it, but there's also a bigger investment for other private contractors to also own their little share of it. Another thing that Drader mentions is that Greenland, I'm sorry, that Denmark does not want Greenland to leave or to accede, and they currently are mainly tied to Greenland through their government salary. So it looks like they're spending $500 million a year on those government salaries. And the reason why that number is important is because allegedly, like, that is kind of like the only economic tie. So like the people obviously don't want to give up their economy, and then they're like, okay, well, this is our income, and we're getting it from directly from Denmark. So yeah, we need that $500 million per year, please, please, please. And remember, Praxis Nation, yeah, they, for some reason, somehow, some way, have $525 million that they purportedly have been able to raise. So we can pay you a little bit more than what those other guys can pay you. We'll bump those salaries, and we can build whatever we want to. Let's go ahead and pull up that Praxis Nation blueprint, that 3D, well, it's not really a 3D model. It's like a digitized AI model. So this is what they want this to look like. It is beautiful. It is beautiful, but I'm very concerned about fully technical cities, fully digitized lives, because we are getting closer to not owning things. We are getting closer to not actually having autonomy, because things can be turned on, turned off. Oop, you can't pay for this anymore. Every single thing is digitized. Every interaction is digitized. All right, before we jump in, thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode from wherever you guys are catching us. If you guys are catching us and are part of our live crew, thank you so much for joining us today. Please, if you guys want to support the show, feel free to scan our QR code that we have here on the screen, and or just find like my bio from somewhere in wherever you're listening to this show. But let's get back into today's episode. All right. You might be asking yourself from the title, like, what the hell does Elon Musk have to do with this? Because I just tied him into this. But Elon Musk is part of that same group of tech oligarchs. And I want to take us all the way back to Elon Musk's childhood, because once we start to pierce that veil, you start to realize that these guys, again, are not that smart as they claim to be. All right, so Elon Musk is born in South Africa, and he lives in South Africa until he's 17 years old. So this is Elon Musk. This is his mom. This is his mom, and then these are his brothers there. So it looks like he is doing decently well, actually, as a child. But you might be surprised to find out that Elon Musk doesn't just do decently well. His family is extremely wealthy in South Africa. In fact, his father is a very prominent real estate investor, and also allegedly they are emerald traders in South Africa. So they own a lot of really, really valuable, pricey things. And allegedly, according to his upbringing, he had like private cars, they had private jets, they lived in mansions in South Africa. And Elon Musk attended the Pretoria Boys High School, which is a private high school in South Africa. Now, when Elon Musk was growing up, he grew up in apartheid South Africa. So let's keep that photo up and just take a look at his classmates. Obviously, we do not have any black classmates because he is currently in apartheid Africa, South Africa, which a lot of people, if you are not familiar with what apartheid even means, it's pretty much just segregation of the races, kind of like in the US during like Jim Crow era, where people are still very much being discriminated based off their color of skin. And it was a frame of thought. I want to point this out because when we did our episode on Peter Thiel, I tried to highlight that this was just seemingly how people thought in that region around that time. And then people have since made an effort to not have that thinking in terms of like the white people who settled in South Africa. And people came for all sorts of reasons. And like I highlighted with Peter Thiel, there was a big Nazi faction allegedly that was fleeing from World War II Germany into South Africa so that they can settle up some kind of a base there to then continue on with the Nazis regime. So Peter Thiel's family, his father was a chemical engineer, and other engineers were part of that group, like other intellectuals, scientists, obviously everybody that had their hand in helping to facilitate the Holocaust ended up fleeing, not just South Africa, but just to various different countries and kind of trying to settle some kind of settlement there. But I think that the thing that gets interesting to me about Elon Musk is then the way that he positions himself as a Canadian. And I remember when he was initially part of the Doge team and when he was going to be brought on by Trump, and it was like Elon Musk, the Canadian, like he's advocating for immigrants, he's advocating for H-1B visas. He really wants to ensure that like that part of like people who are contributing to the society of the US are still contributing. And he kept saying he's a Canadian. And then I'm like, wait, Elon Musk lived in Canada for 2 years. And we have a photo of Elon Musk when he attended Queen's University. This was one of the 2 years. He was a student in Canada from 1889 to, I'm sorry, 1889. He would have already been long gone. 1989 to 1991. So he attended for 2 years there, and then he ended up going to UPenn in the US after that, which is like, Elon Musk, you're South African, pretty much. The way that you grew up, probably your way of thinking, your upbringing is pretty much South African. But he was able to obtain Canadian citizenship because his mother was a Canadian citizen. So that's why he says that he is Canadian. He got his H-1B into the US, which is true. And then he started his own company. And he started his own company, which was called Zip2. Okay, so Zip2 was started by Elon Musk and his brother, and then 2 other individuals. One was called Greg Corey, and the other one was called Navaid Farouk. So this is Elon Musk with his brother, with his mother. So this is Kimball Musk. Okay, so Kimball Musk helped to start Zip2, and obviously Elon Musk, who comes from a family or a father who does emerald trading, is not exactly going to start from zero. Like if I was starting a business, it's like me and my computer and like, what can I get done? But if Elon Musk is starting a business, there's a little bit of pocket of wealth coming from his father, from I guess even his mother, but all funneled through his father, funneling through his father. And the other funny thing, if we can pull up that photo from Queen's University. So this is Elon Musk's roommate when he is in Queen's University. Allegedly, they were still friends. And it looks like when he was a student at Queen's University that they got together, or they got along well together, because neither of them allegedly like made many friends when they were in high school, which I'm not hating on Elon about, because I didn't really make too many friends in high school either. But what I think that's interesting about it is that I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, Navaid Farouk, the one that we had in that photo. He worked at Zip2 for 6 weeks and then eventually quit the company And the funny thing about that is because that seems as though to be kind of an ongoing trend with Elon Musk and his businesses, where it's like a lot of people are leaving. A lot of people don't really like working. I mean, even the Doge thing, it's like Elon Musk ended up getting kicked out of the government because of that, which I thought has always been ridiculous. Because why would we willingly put somebody who's a non-U.S. citizen in the government and such a high position to have such access to our documents? It does not make sense. But they started that initial business, and allegedly, according to from what I found, this is just like hearsay at this point because I haven't really been able to verify this on other sources or like find the exact story where this was mentioned. But according to like Wikipedia and various other sources, Elon Musk allegedly got this idea when he was actually serving an internship in the bank, and apparently a yellow pages salesman came in and was actually suggesting this same business venture, which basically what Zip2 was an online platform for local businesses to be able to offer like up their services, which is like very familiar, similar to something that we have now. But obviously at that time it was like the 2000s. So this was the new age of internet. So then he created this company. And what this company was able to do was, like I said, it provided an online city guide software, and it was mainly used for newspapers. And Elon Musk was able to actually take this small company and sell it for a pretty decent amount of money to Compaq Computer in 1999. And that becomes important because that slowly becomes a snowball effect of Elon Musk's power. It's not that he has the best idea, because it wasn't even necessarily his idea, which I don't fault him for, because a lot of what business is like identifying what are like pain points. But somebody literally came in the office and offered that business. Like somebody was talking about that business, and he was like, wait, how can I turn that into like a bigger business or kind of like take it up? So I don't know. To me, it doesn't show too much innovation necessarily, but just kind of putting his name on things. And it seems like that continues over and over. And we have this clip that we want to pull up, which is this is an interview that Elon Musk did when he was starting Zip2. And I want you to hear what he has to say, because he says that he had no money starting this business, which is kind of laughable if you guys remember, because like I said, his father is an emerald trader, allegedly, and he comes from extreme wealth. So if you're struggling, do you think that your parents would not try to offer a little something somewhere? I mean, even my parents try to offer me something, and they don't have too much. But let's go ahead and play that clip.
Take us back to when you really started all of this.
Well, that was the summer of '95. I had no money whatsoever. I was working, doing research in Silicon Valley on a completely different subject, and trying to start this company at the same time. And when it came time to decide, do I want to do graduate studies or do I want to start this company, and I decided to start the company, I had no money. As a graduate student, I would have received a scholarship and a stipend and so forth. In starting the company, I had nothing. I had no income source. So we found that an office was actually cheaper than an apartment in Silicon Valley. So we got this dinky little office that had a leaky roof. It was just the nastiest place you can imagine.
And you lived in it too?
And I lived in it too, and showered at the YMCA. This lasted for about 3 or 4 months. And the reason we chose this office, in addition to it being really cheap, was that there was an internet service provider on the floor below. So we were able to get really cheap internet access by drilling a hole in the floor and connecting to their server directly.
God, I feel so bad for the guy. I mean, you had to draw a hole in the floor and illegally take the internet from the other guy? Dang, Elon. Hopefully you couldn't have just called somebody from back at home, be like, hey, can you guys just wire me like a couple $100? Nope, they were slumping it out there, which is so ridiculous when you think about. Again, it's so funny that the trope of like the tech nomad or the tech guru who goes about and tries to perform as though they are just like a lowly person, a regular person. But this actually no, they try to pretend like they are a humble person with a super geniusness that just put them in that position. Like I said, out of all the guys, Peter Thiel, JD Vance, Elon Musk, Sam Altman, none of them are really that smart, except for Peter Thiel. I will give him that. Okay, I think Peter Thiel is the brain out of the bunch. But Elon Musk, oh, Elon. Yeah, he ends up selling Zip2, like I said. And then he starts with that money, he starts X, which a lot of people are familiar with now, X as being a social media platform. But you guys probably would be surprised to know that X actually used to be Elon Musk's his first business. Well, not his first, one of his first businesses. And it operates very similarly to something like a PayPal where you are sending online, where you're able to send online payments. And at the time, the internet was new, so we didn't have things like Venmo, Apple Cash, anything like that. So this was net new technology. And so Elon Musk saw an opportunity for this, and he did create this company. And this was the original X.com page, just to kind of highlight some things. Like I said, this is online payments. This is like that their page that was put out in January of 2000 when the company, the company actually launched in December of 1999. But this page only survived on the internet for a short time because 3 months later, Elon Musk sold this to PayPal. And the funny thing about this is that this software that he originally had built for X.com had a security flaw that was part of it. According to my research, it seems as though users found a loophole where they were able to send and also receive money like using the same login. So for example, like let's say I have a Venmo account or an Apple Pay account, which a lot of people have. I put my account on there and then I put somebody else's account on there. And then from the other account, I then send it to my account. So I was able to put two accounts on there just with the same with the bank information, the routing number, and then send it to myself. Obviously, nowadays there would be additional security to ensure that money is not going from one device to another. Fine, but in those 3 months that this product was released, the users quickly, within weeks, found this loophole to be able to send money to each other. And then I guess Peter Thiel's company, which was PayPal, found it profitable to then purchase it. So this is the announcement from the X.com page when they were merging services with PayPal. So basically it just says like, hey, it's going to take us a couple months to onboard all of your accounts. Do not worry. You'll be able to use both services really, really quickly, and just hang in there. Don't worry, that $10 referral friend is still there, but we're going to join together. And really what Elon Musk happened to sell to Peter Thiel seemed to be like I said, a faulty technology, or probably Peter Thiel probably just saw an opportunity to monopolize the market allegedly and buy the company. Because from what my research of these like large tech oligarchs is that they look to monopolize, they look to fully capitalize on something. I think there's this quote, I don't even know if this quote comes from Peter Thiel, but maybe we could fact check this, but I believe Peter Thiel was one that said that why start a business if you are not able to start a monopoly? And so this is kind of what they think. So I don't know if Peter Thiel actually saw value in Elon Musk's company, or did Peter Thiel just see it as competition and was like, wait, let's quickly monopolize this technology and join forces. And Elon Musk now credits himself as the former CEO of PayPal. If you Google it, if you look it up, AI will output it to you that, yeah, Elon Musk used to be the former CEO of PayPal when they merged, but he was only CEO for a short time. From February to September, he served as the PayPal CEO. And from something that I keep seeing in my research too, it seems as though like they would vote to push someone out when the person was like out of town, or they would vote to push. So that's what happened with Elon Musk. He left for a trip, and then they pushed him out as the PayPal CEO. So yeah, he wasn't really able to continue serving as a CEO. But he did make money, like I said, from that acquisition. So again, this is Elon Musk slowly building his wealth, slowly selling companies that he knows are kind of BS companies, allegedly, in my opinion, but they slowly start to get rid of those. And it looks like he sold X, just to give you guys the number here. He invested 12 million into co-founding that that original X.com in March 1999, and then obviously he ended up merging it. So he used that $12 million to start PayPal, and then he merged it, got another large sum of money from that merger, and so forth and so forth. Okay. The other thing that's funny about that interview with Elon Musk, he's like, "Oh, I was researching in Silicon Valley about various different businesses, and I was trying to figure out if I wanted to go here or there." And he was serving as an intern in a bank, and then somebody came in and marketed allegedly the very business that he started. So he wasn't researching allegedly. He was sitting at an office and overheard a conversation and then was like, wait, maybe I should put some of my father's money into that and make an actual business and make money off of it. I guess he's smart for something, okay? He's smart for something. But the question of Elon Musk's IQ, it was one that I was personally having as I was researching stuff. And so I was delighted actually to find that somebody else who is allegedly well, not even allegedly, he reports himself to be Elon Musk's biographer. Now, I was like, what does that mean? Does that mean he's like working on a book for him? Because a lot of his stuff is like very anti Elon Musk. Basically, it just means someone who does research and as their subject, it is constantly Elon Musk. So he's like a biographer, meaning he's a researcher of Elon Musk. And this is a cover photo of that article, which is The Truth About Musk, from his biographer. And he talks about in this article what he believes to be Elon Musk's actual IQ. Because if you look it up, Elon Musk's IQ is like 146, 130 something. Like that's what it will output you, which is like above average, like almost in like a somewhat of like not a superhuman, but like you're very, very in a niche group. Apparently, when he was a child, he would read the Encyclopedia Britannica multiple times front to back. Very interesting. But this is a quote from that article. It says, "The simple fact is that Zip2, which brought Elon the massive financial haul he needed to do literally anything else in business in the United States, arose from an idea that he appeared to have stolen." I say appears to have stolen because there are 3 separate potential sources for the idea for Zip2, and only one is Elon and his brother Kimball. The key one is a phone book salesman and another an entrepreneur who actually sued Elon for stealing the idea for Zip2. Both these well-documented claims are credible, even as the attempts by Elon Musk, by the Musk boys to describe them and center themselves in the story of Zip2 are half-hearted, and in the judgment of his biographer, of this biographer, even laughable. I always say, if you want to understand how things work, 1, you always follow the money. 2, I always like to look at where does someone get their start? Because someone's start will always somewhat humble them in some regard. And it's like Elon Musk's start has truly just been in putting his name behind certain businesses and having the capital to do so. I think I even read that SpaceX at the time that it was pitched to government investors, that it was just a name on a napkin. Like it was just an idea. Elon Musk was also appointed as the CEO of Tesla. He wasn't necessarily the one to build the company, but he is often the one that does get credited for the vehicles and everything. So it's sometimes the image that they want you to believe in, and they always want us to believe in the humble tech guy who just happened to like build this business in his garage. And it's like, actually, it's not that way. These people are heavily being influenced by 1, their money, and 2, the power that they seek to have. And I want to just end this video with highlighting a little bit of my newfound feeling on that like infamous Elon Musk Nazi salute that he did during one of like the RNC meetings or whatever they're called, the panel discussions, whatever. It was a convention basically, and I initially was like, okay, Elon Musk is autistic. He says he's on the spectrum. Like he's probably just maybe like socially awkward. And I saw his speeches that he gave like while he was talking at various different RNC events during the campaigning of Trump for 2020. And I was like, okay, he's just an awkward guy. And I don't like to assign value to stuff where it's like sometimes not needed. But now understanding his background, he comes from South Africa, apartheid South Africa. He's only partially kind of Canadian. I mean, he's Canadian through his mother, and he lived there for 2 years, but he's pretty much South African. And then his whole thing, just like Sam Altman, just like the other tech guys, has been, I'm going to just tell you what you want to hear when you need to hear it, when you're asking for it. And outside of that, I can be whoever I want. I saw one of Elon Musk's video. If you don't believe me that he's not that smart, he did an interview with Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan, he was talking about Mamdani Soran, the new elected Senate for is he Senate or is he governor? I always get that mixed up. Hopefully we can double check that. But yeah, newly elected official for representing New York, and he was like, yeah, the guy is like, he's fake. He's just like, he's critiquing him, and Joe Rogan asked him like, oh, like why do you think that? And then he's like, he just thinks like forever, cannot come up with something, and then just like, yeah, he's fake. Can't trust the guy. He's just this pompous like personality type. And it's like, come on. At least Peter Thiel would have done a better job answering that question. So Elon, and Sam Altman, they're just performers basically. But thank you guys so much for joining today's episode. If you guys have any tips, any leads, we do have our tips box at therealkevinm.info at gmail.com. So please reach out to us if you guys have anything that you guys want us to cover for this show. Like I said, like I always say, we always have stuff that we want to cover, but we always love to hear from you guys. So please let us know. And thank you guys so much for joining us for today's episode from wherever you guys are finding us, whether you're watching us live, thank you. Whether you are listening to us later on, we appreciate the view. Please go ahead and share this with anyone that you think that could enjoy this episode. And I'd love to hear what you guys think about the new president, Delcy Rodriguez. And also, what do you guys think about Elon Musk? Am I missing something here? Like, did I miss when he, I guess, like won like a super huge math competition and read the Britannica 50,000 times as a baby? Please let me know if I did. But we stream our episodes weekly on Spotify, on Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, and of course on YouTube. But thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.